Buongiorno a tutti, benvenuti al Parlamento europeo. È con grande piacere che vi porgo a nome di tutti i deputati, mio personale, il benvenuto nella nostra aula, anche se in una modalità diversa, nuova, inedita. Voglio ringraziare il programma Euroscuola per il suo impegno, per incoraggiare voi giovani a parlare di Europa, ad esprimere la vostra opinione sulla democrazia europea, sui diritti fondamentali, sui nostri valori comuni e su tutte le tematiche che vi stanno a cuore. Stiamo vivendo una situazione straordinaria, inaspettata, che ci ha condotto in questi mesi a prendere delle decisioni senza precedenti, ad adeguare i nostri strumenti, a definire delle nuove politiche che corrano di pari passo con le esigenze e le necessità di tutti i cittadini europei. La democrazia non può essere sospesa, soprattutto nel mezzo di una crisi drammatica come questa. Il vostro incontro oggi ne è la prova palese. È un grande piacere vedere tanti ragazzi, tanti giovani come voi che si interessano all'Europa, che dedicano il loro tempo, le loro energie, il loro cuore a sostegno di un'Europa più forte, unita, solidale. Oggi, con gli strumenti e i fondi messi a disposizione dall'Unione, abbiamo la possibilità di progettare quella nuova Europa, un'Europa che sia più equa, più verde, più digitale, proiettata verso il futuro. Ed è essenziale che voi siate gli attori chiave, perché tante sfide attendono proprio voi, le nuove generazioni. Ed è nostro dovere sentire il peso sulle spalle fin da subito di queste vostre necessità.
Today, 85 schools and about 2,550 students from different European Union countries are actively participating.
Yes, but first of all, we want to get to know you. We want to know from which country you're joining us today. It's great to see that so many of you are joining us today from so many different countries. And thank you also for the students joining from United Kingdom. Even after Brexit, it's a great pleasure to see you here.
And we wanted to ask, what is the EU Commission going to do about the Taliban ignoring human rights in Afghanistan, with forbidding girls going to school and leaving the house?
Okay, good morning to Germany as well. Well, the issue of Afghanistan, and in particular the situation of women in Afghanistan, is very worrying. As I said before, when we discussed the Sakharov Prize this year, we strongly consider an alternative to give this award to Afghan women, precisely to show our engagement. Of course, as I said, there are also other important options, and but the fact that we've discussed that and that Afghan women were at the very end in the short list of the discussions about the Sakharov Prize shows that the European Parliament pays attention to this issue. Now, of course, we have to cooperate with the Taliban authorities, because they are the ones that have the political power de facto in Afghanistan. This is not about recognizing politically the government in Afghanistan, but it is about engaging with them in order to ensure, in one hand, humanitarian support for the communities in need, but also calling for commitments from the part of the Taliban in respect of the safeguard of the rights of women. This is not an easy situation. We've seen gladly from the part of the political responsibles in in Kabul, that they are aware of the political pressure made by the European Union and other in the international community. So they've made a number of statements, of political statements, saying that this time it will be different in Afghanistan regarding women's rights. But we know this is not that easy. This is not only about words. We want to see concrete positive developments. We have contradictory informations about what's going on. In one hand, showing that, yes, there is a slight different tone in the ground this time, but also reports about situations of persecution and discrimination, and this is, of course, unacceptable. So this is a situation that we have to monitor, to engage politically, in order to show that the cooperation of the European Union can only be sustained if the Taliban in Afghanistan can show a different understanding of the rights of women in their country.
Thank you very much. So it's a question coming from Van der Berg. What is your opinion on Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook?
First of all, I think that it is part of our lives. Actually, you know, well, and the young people know in particular how important these means of communication have become in our daily life. So it is really a crucial issue. I believe that Facebook is far from doing enough in terms of safeguarding the data protection. On the contrary, I see very worrying situations going on, and we just had this week here the most recent and famous whistleblower pointing the finger to Facebook on some practices that, in fact, do not ensure data protection and human rights as a whole. I see that Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, they are trying to show that they are doing something in order to limit the abuse of the use of Facebook and tweets and other instruments in order to say that not everything is allowed. But what really concerns me is fundamentally data protection, because there I think that businesses are being made with our data, and this is, of course, unacceptable. So this has to be controlled in some way. I don't think this is something the European Union can do alone. I think this requires an effort of the international community, but this is one of the issues where we see that we need to have a regulation of our globalization. Because otherwise we will keep seeing these giants in the digital world, but also in the financial world without any kind of control. And this is the disturbing of our values, of our democracies even. So the regulation of globalization is essential, also in the digital world, for a number of reasons. Data protection is one, but also for having more justice in our tax systems, because we are seeing that those giants, they are making all these profits all over the world, inequalities are increasing, and they simply escape from paying their part for the taxes, with all the consequences for the public revenues and the public services. So this is something we have to address. Fortunately, there's something being done in terms of ensuring minimum tax collection from the part of the multinationals and these giants in the digital world. But this is a work in progress, and for sure we have to do much more in order to ensure what I am calling the regulation of our globalization.
How does the EU tackle terrorism while combating racist and discriminatory views on what a terrorist looks like or what faith they belong to? An example of this in recent times is the perception that all Muslims are terrorists, particularly with the situation in Afghanistan resulting in increased fears of terrorist attack against a Western nation. What is the EU doing to address this issue?
European borders are sensitive and important places, judging from our own experience. Do you think that an official EU army would be an initiative that could guarantee the safety and well-being of European Union citizens?
I have to say, I mean, we shouldn't make a confusion between the fight against terrorism and security. Terrorism, I mean, is something that we should fight against, but we should have, I mean, any confusion between, security and terrorism. If I take Afghanistan, I mean, I think it was a shock for everybody. What happened there? It was, I mean, it's a deep crisis. I understand, I properly understand, I mean, the concern of any potential terrorist threat, but at the same time, I think, I mean, it's not the issue now. When you look at Afghanistan, is the fact that we didn't manage to properly organize the evacuation of all vulnerable people and all those, I mean, at risk, and that's still the case today. Also because, I mean, the US basically left the country, and we understand now that we have maybe to think better about the EU strategic autonomy. When we talk about EU strategic autonomy, it doesn't mean that we will, from one day to another one, having, I mean, an EU army. That's under discussion, and it will be, we will have the Minister of Defense will meet next week, I mean, to continue the discussion, because since, I mean, what happened in Afghanistan during the summer, you had, I mean, a series of discussion on that. With potentially, I mean, a decision next spring under the EU French presidency. That's a discussion that the EU had, I mean, for a while already. Do we want to have, I mean, our proper army or not? That's a valid question. If we go for developing, I mean, an EU army, and what will happen with NATO is another question. I think it's very important, I mean, anyway, to be able to guarantee the security of our member states and of Europe towards the others, but also to be able to react when we think it's fair to react. And in the case of Afghanistan, I think that we all agree that we wanted to have something else, and we wanted, I mean, to help the people there. The threat of the Taliban in the country now is something which is of great concern, of course. I don't have the answer. I don't think that the EU army might be the only solution. I think which is really important is to ensure the security of people in their country and to ensure the security of our borders.
So we see that you're already participating on Slido, and I think we can start with the first idea coming from Maria: improve the influence of the EU in non-EU countries.
If I come back, I mean, to what I'm doing here in the Parliament, improving the human rights record, because what does it mean, influencing a country? If it's, I mean, to spread the universality of human rights, I fully agree. I mean, we have to continue engaging with all this country, but it's not easy. And you know, most of the time, what I experience in my job is that you have, or people trying to put in competition human rights with other sectors, human rights and trade, human rights and investment, human rights and terrorism, and so on and so on. So improving the place of human rights in any country would be my answer.
Now we have 4 top ideas on Slido for the moment, and you will decide which is your favorite idea and which idea you want to be voted today. The vote is now open.
This is important because the right to vote is something which you should really reuse, and we do it now, and this is your importance. And I think our guest, our expert and the Vice President will see which idea is going to win.
And the vote is closed right now. So the top idea is the future shall be environmentally friendly.
Vous savez que depuis quelques mois, j'espère, on vous a parlé ou vous
I hope that you have already heard about the so-called Conference on the Future of Europe. This conference started last May and will continue for a few more months into the spring of 2022. This is a forum for debating how we need to modify the way in which the European Union functions. It's an opportunity to prepare the European Union for years to come, especially taking into account past experience and the recent experience of managing the pandemic. One element is very interesting in this conference, that is to say that we have invited not just representatives of the different European institutions, but also citizens have been invited to take part in this conference. And most of these citizens have never been politically active. Amongst these citizens, there are many, many young people between the ages of 16 and 25. About 30% of the citizens taking part in this conference are under the age of 25. And this is very important. Not just the fact that citizens are being given the floor, but in particular that young citizens are being given the floor. Because it is young people who need to be particularly involved in a vision for the European Union for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Because it is you, the young people, who will be managing our societies at that point in time, whether this be at home or in the European Union. And it's important, therefore, for other young people to be active as well, who are not directly involved in this conference. They need to be able to become involved via the internet platform, find out about the debates that are going on, and to take part in the events being organized. And I think that Euroscola is one of many ways to involve young people in these issues and a way of finding out the opinion of young people on the future of Europe.
Merci beaucoup et bonne chance à tous.